Welcome back to Ozarks International Raceway for what will be round number 2 of the 2022 USF Juniors Championship. My name is Rob Howden, joined today for this race broadcast by our driver coach, Gabby Chavez. Gabby, we brought you in this year knowing that we have a bunch of young drivers in this program. We want to make sure that they have a veteran coach to work with them. It's all about driver development. Really your first trackside day in terms of racing to be able to work with them. You did a lot during the day for testing yesterday. Today, though, post-race, how did things go talking to these drivers after what was a pretty good race?
Rob, it was a great race. I think we were all very pleasantly surprised. There were some close battles out on track. The drivers were respectful to each other. They raced really hard, really clean, and we got a lot of green flag laps. Yeah,
we almost got to the very end. There was just an incident at the very end that we lost a couple of laps. Otherwise, close to going green to checkered. Of course, those of you who watched here on the USF Juniors app or on one of the websites, Matt Clark with a big victory for him to get the season started. A couple of VRD drivers in second and third, Nikita Johnson and Sam Corey. Great run for those drivers there. You're obviously working with maybe some of the drivers struggling a little bit further in the back. You go over data, right? So what do you look at a track like this? So challenging, all the undulations we've talked about. What is it that you work on these drivers with?
Rob, this is a very high commitment, high speed track. Obviously, which favors the drivers that have more experience, that maybe have a bit more seat time and track time in this particular open wheel car. A lot of the drivers here are making their first step from karting. Yeah. So this is not an easy place for them. So the biggest thing we want to work is just build up their speed, build up their confidence, maximize their track time, minimize the mistakes so that they can do the most amount of laps and really set them up for success the rest of the season.
And that's one of the things we did. Obviously, we had a 60-minute window to run our 12 laps. This race here in the afternoon will cap off the day, 45 minutes for the 12 laps. Tomorrow at 11:50 when we go for race number 3, it'll be another 1-hour window. All right, folks, we have 17 drivers on the grid getting set to go. We had Danny Anderson give us the command to fire the opening race for race number 2. My man Gabby Chavez will fire him up.
Drivers, start your engine.
And with that, engine's coming to life down on pit lane. We'll get things underway. 17 drivers, as I said, set to go. Does anybody have anything to challenge Matt Clark, who has been the dominant factor throughout the entire weekend thus far? He'll start on the pole position again. Nikita Johnson with a good lap there in the race 1. Actually quicker than his qualifying lap. He'll move to the outside of the front row. We'll have a look at the grid here momentarily as the drivers work their way out onto the racetracks again. So for what will be a 12-lap race, 45-minute window, a lot of opportunity to make sure that we are able to go green through as many laps as possible. As Gabby says, this whole thing is about driver development, those drivers being able to get as many laps as they possibly can. Let's have a look at the grid. As I said, the drivers rolling off here right now. We'll let Gabby Chavez get out of here and head back up to race control. Again, getting a good opportunity to have a look at the drivers who are heading out onto the racetrack. And again, we say hello to those of you who are tuning in on the USF Juniors app, maybe roadtoindy.tv or usfjuniors.com. If you have not yet downloaded the USF Juniors app and you want to follow the future stars of the Road to Indy and the NTT IndyCar Series, make sure to do so. Get that on the mobile device. You will not miss a race throughout the 2022 season. Of course, we're right back at it next weekend as well. We run here at Ozarks International Raceway with a triple header, then a double header on Thursday and Friday. So everything the drivers learn from this weekend, they'll be able to internalize, and we go racing Thursday and Friday at Barber Motorsports Park. Let's have a look at the grid. As we had said, a couple of scratches, I believe. Jacob Boland had an issue at the end of the opening race, and I hurt his hand a little bit, so we may see him tomorrow, but he will be a scratch for this race here. Here is the grid, though, as we get set to go. The drivers cruising their way around this beautiful racetrack, 3.97 miles, 17 corners, and unparalleled elevation change throughout this facility. It is a tough, challenging racetrack, but I think we saw the young drivers in USF Juniors do such a good job in that opening race, really managing the track itself, and we saw some great racing. Hoping for the same here in race number 2. Matt Clark will start on the pole position in that number 17 for D-Force Racing. The Valkyrie AI-sponsored machine, very quick in qualifying. He'll hold on the pole coming off that race win. Nikita Johnson, as I said, for Velocity Racing Development, was able to go quicker in race number 1, improves his time, moves himself to the outside of row number 1. Row 2, Sam Corey on the inside of the number 14, that 14-year-old driver, very impressive for VRD with the podium. He'll start alongside Team USA Scholarship alumni Andre Castro in New York, in the number 23 for International Motorsports. Moving to row number 3, Alessandro Di Tullio, one of the top tag kart racers in North America right now, races for Parolin USA, a winner earlier this year in the SuperKarts USA Winter Series. Di Tullio in the number 20, starting in the 5th spot for VRD. On the outside of that row, the first of the 2 Crosslink Kiwi drivers, Jeremy Fairbairn out of Florida in the number 87, really improving throughout this weekend. Dug in deep during the testing sessions, really was able to find a car that he liked and moved his way forward yesterday. So Jeremy Fairbairn, a great run, the 18-year-old celebrating a birthday last week. He'll start on the outside of row 3. Row 4, we'll see Jake Bonilla on the inside. He's been very comfortable here as well for D-Force Racing, the number 19, starting in the 7th position, the Texan. On the inside and on the outside, the Frenchman who now lives in Florida, Alan Isambard, for International Motorsports, the number 53. He'll settle in to P8. Capping off the top 10, Ethan Ho had to come from the tail of the field after a spin in the opening circuit heading into the S's section. Will start significantly further forward than he did at the end of lap number 1. He will be on the inside of row number 5, starting 9th alongside Noah Ping, the driver out of Georgia, in the number 55 for VRD. Row 6, 11th and 12th, Elliot Cox on the inside for Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing. Cox out of Indianapolis, Indiana, in the number 67. He's shown good speed throughout these couple of days here at Ozarks. He'll start on the inside, as I said. And on the outside, Titus Sherlock, another driver who's had very strong speed for Crosslink Kiwi. Sherlock in the number 31, starting in 12th. Row 7 will have Earl Tucker in the number 24 on the inside for DC Autosport with Cape Motorsports, and the young lady out of Philippines, Bianca Bustamante, in the IGY6 Motorsports number 9, starting in 14th. Then we'll have Jacob Bowen, as I said, to scratch them. Ideally, we'll see them come back around. I wasn't able to get out to the grid before I had to come to the studio. Nicholas D'Orlando and Maxwell Jameson, both drivers having incidents in qualifying. They were not able to get those cars repaired and back out onto the racetrack here for race 1, hoping that they're on the grid right now for race number 2. They will start in the 15th and 16th places, respectively. So 16 drivers in total getting set to go here right now, I believe. And again, ready to go racing with round number 2 in the 16-round series. Visit a bunch of different racetracks before this thing's all said and done. We head to Barber next week with VIR, Road America, Coda, Mid-Ohio. Some great racetracks still to come on the docket. Field set. The pace car is headed to pit lane. It's time to go racing. Clark on the inside. Johnson on the outside. Field coming into the punch-off zone as we get set to go from the drone coverage into turn number 1. Green, green, green. Racing down the front straightaway into a downhill left-hand plunge. Looks like Clark able to take the lead from the get-go. They'll work their way there. It's hard to see the elevation change here. Look at this. That's a better shot of it. This is coming up out of turn number 2. Little kink, turn number 3 to the left, then a double apex, and you come around turn number 4. Essentially a double apex, then into turn number 5. And that will lead them. Look at this long back straightaway at this racetrack here. It's a curving back straightaway. We've got a chicane in the inside of it. A very tough racetrack for sure. As I said, through 3, 4, and 5, big run down the here, and for the first time through what we'll call turn 6 into the bus stop area, and the field lining up nicely. Great job in the opening couple of corners for the drivers here in USF Juniors. Again, this program, the feeder series for the Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. Drivers anywhere from 16 to 23 years of age this year on the docket. And now we're underway. 12 laps, the scheduled distance, a 45-minute time window to make sure we're able to do the best we can and get these drivers loads of lap time. Getting things underway, quick little breakaway. Matt Clark out into the early lead. There's that shot coming out of turn number 10 and 11, I believe. There's through turn number 11, a sweeper back up over the top. Just a light kink here in turn number 12. Big run down into a sweeping turn number 13. Very much like turn number 1 at Mosport. If you've ever been to the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park up in Canada, it's kind of an off-camber corner where the car hangs around. Oh, we got trouble. Driver has gone off. The number 19 has had trouble off the racetrack, and I think there's another one there. That's the 19 and the 53. That's going to be Jake Bonilla and Alan Isambard. Those two drivers have made contact on the opening lap. They were battling for 7th and 8th, and we have ourselves very likely a full course yellow. So able to go green to almost checker in the very first race. The first 9 laps of USF Juniors run under green flag racing, but we're not able to get the opening circuit in here as contact between 2 drivers back just outside the top 5 have made contact on the racetrack, and that will bring everybody back to a crawl once again. So tough start here for USF Juniors in race number 2. We did see some tire wear in the paddock after the opening lap. This track very tough on tires. If you're not set up correctly, let's be real, right? Obviously, Matt Clark's tires look pretty good, as did Sam Corey and Nikita Johnson. The AMR safety crew getting themselves now over to the cars that have been involved in the incident. That's one of the cool things we have this particular weekend. You can see the AMR safety crew, the same guys you'll see at an NTT IndyCar Series race. Part of the program here with the USF Juniors. We have 3 AMR safety crew members here with us, one up in the tower and one essentially crew chiefing and quarterbacking each of our safety crews. So they'll do what they can to pull this car off the racetrack. I think they're kind of surveying there's maybe not a lot of damage to the number 19 of Jake Bonilla, and that's the key, right? If they can get him pulled back out onto the racetrack and he can refire, we may have an opportunity to get the Jake back into the race. And it's tough for him because he really did have a strong run in qualifying and showed tremendous speed. Yeah, they'll pull him back out here. So again, one of the key components of our USF Juniors program, the investment in having the AMR safety crew with us here at Ozarks and throughout the season. So Bonilla able to get back on track. They'll ideally fire him back up and continue. Isambard, of course, as you had saw, a little further buried into the tires. They'll, of course, survey the damage to see whether or not they're going to be able to get him pulled out. Otherwise, we'll have to get the wrecker in there, the tow truck, to bring him up. Matt Clark was able to defend the pole start to lead it here. Nikita Johnson second, Sam Corey third, Andre Castro in fourth, DeTulio in fifth. One driver I didn't see come across there yet, at least on live timing that I'm watching, was Jeremy Fairburn. I wonder if he was potentially involved as well. Maxwell Jameson, I think D'Orlando's out there. I don't know that Jameson got back out onto the racetrack. Again, as I said, I had to come down and wasn't able to quite see who all got themselves onto the grid. This would actually play into the hands of D'Orlando if indeed he was able to go cleanly through. But we have a couple drivers I don't think that have come around yet. So we've got some cleanup to do in terms of finding out exactly who is potentially out of this race early. Everybody else coming back around. As I said, Clark, Johnson, Corey, Castro, and DeTulio the top 5. Ethan Ho in 6th, Titus Sherlock 7th, Earl Tucker 8th, Elliot Cox in 9th, Noah Ping in 10th, and Bianca Bustamante in the 11th spot. I have not seen Jeremy Fairburn or Michael D'Orlando come and post a time here. We know that Bonilla and Isambard involved in the incident. Bonilla has not yet refired that machine. The drivers continue to circulate around. Yeah, I was just going to say, we are on a red flag right now. I took a quick look over the live timing. Our race director, Joel Miller, had told the drivers this morning in the drivers' meeting that if indeed there was an issue where they were going to have to potentially spend more time to get a driver out of the, whatever, it would be the gravel trap or in the tires, that we would go red to preserve the actual green flag laps. So we have, again, we're coming around to essentially put lap 2 in the books, and they will, I believe, bring those drivers on the red flag. Yeah, bring them into pit lane. And then we'll reset things, get things dialed in. We do have a 45-minute time window to get 12 laps in here for race number 2. Indeed, that's part of the concept that was decided on as the season got put together, this program put together, that we would focus, of course, on race laps for these young drivers, all of them attempting to get into the USF 2000 program, get themselves into the road to Indy, and that's what this program's all about. There's the damage you can see. Yeah, they're pulling some body work off the 53 of Isambard, so that International Motorsports machine is damaged. They'll have to go to work on that thing when they get him back into the paddock area, because, of course, racing tomorrow again at 11:50. Final round of the event here at Ozarks. Bringing that wrecker in. So red flag for the drivers here in USF Juniors and round number 2 at Ozarks International Raceway. As I had mentioned before, 3.97 miles, the length of this racetrack, brand new, and it's been exciting to see the drivers get a good grip on it. Same with the USAC Racing Porsche Sprint Challenge drivers as well, getting a good feel for this racetrack after some incidents yesterday. So, yeah, so here's the thing. With the limited visibility we have in terms of where where this incident happened, we're only seeing the one angle. We may see another driver involved in this. And I'd said it was Isambard and Bonilla. They were 7th and 8th. Jeremy Fairburn was 6th. So I'm being told potentially 3 drivers involved in this, hence a little more work that we've got to get done here in the red flag, because there may be another driver into the barriers as well. So Jeremy Fairburn may be in there as well. I hazard to say that right now, but again, one of the drivers out of the race, that could be Fairburn into the tires as well. AMR safety crew doing what they can. Of course, they'll get the other group over here as well. 2 different teams on the track, so a couple drivers buried into the tires. And we'll get things dialed in. Yeah, there's another record coming in. I believe potentially the flatbed coming in here as well. So red flag has flown, as we said. Drivers have got themselves back into pit lane. Matt Clark is the leader. Nikita Johnson second. Sam Corey in third. Andre Castro fourth, and Alessandro DiTullio fifth. That group kind of holds station. It's Fairburn, Bonilla, and Isambard that are out. They were 6th, 7th, and 8th on the opening lap. Ethan Ho, who started 9th, the DC Autosport with Cape Motorsports driver Ethan Ho out of Los Angeles, bumping his way up into 6th. He was able to avoid the incident. He goes to 6th spot. Titus Sherlock, who started back in 12th, finds himself up into 7th. So a good start there for Titus, able to, again, avoid some issues and by a couple of drivers on the start. Earl Tucker slides into the 8th position. He started 13th. Elliot Cox in 9th. Noah Ping 10th. Bianca Bustamante, the 11 drivers that were able to come and put at least that one lap in. I don't know what happened to Nicholas D'Orlando. He is showing a Sector 1 and Sector 2 time on live timing. So it looks to me like he did get out onto the racetrack, but indeed not able to finish that opening lap. So a tough start to Nicholas D'Orlando's USF 2000 or USF Juniors rather campaign with a no start DNS after a qualifying incident. Did not start the opening race and potentially out here on the opening circuit as well. Yeah, so there's the 87. You can see it finally being pulled out. They had to bring the wrecker in to get him out, so they'll pull him off first. Then they'll drag the 53 of Isambard back. So some work to be done for the Crosslink Kiwi team, Crosslink Kiwi Motorsports, as they've got to get some work done on that car of Jeremy Fairburn. Their second driver, Titus Sherlock, up into the 7th spot. That looks like some pretty significant damage. They're pushing back Bonilla. He still has not been able to fire that machine. Again, Jake Bonilla being pushed back there. It's the number 19 driver to San Antonio, Texas, 21 years of age. ZDO Motorsports, a sponsor on the car. Jake was pretty strong in qualifying, no doubt about it. Was able to get nicely out of the gate and show some good speed. And I'm looking for, again, that's one of the things about this particular weekend. These drivers, we saw them at Barber Motorsports Park for the spring training program, but this is really seeing what these guys are going to be able to do and who's kind of how the pecking order is going to shake down when we actually go wheel-to-wheel racing. There's the damage to the number 87. You can be sure that the Kiwi Crosslink Motorsports crew will be going to work on that one, trying to figure out what they've got to do. Tough one for Jeremy. He finished 5th in that opening race, really off to a strong start after really, I wouldn't say struggling, but focusing on trying to find the speed here at the track yesterday. A very daunting circuit, as we have said. Fairburn was 5th. And now will find himself falling down to the tail for this one. Have to bounce back strong. Jake Bonilla was 8th after starting 3rd in the opening round. He's, of course, going to fall to the tail. Clark, Johnson, Corey, Castro, DiTullio, all top 6 in that last race, and that's where they run right now. So they're in really good shape here. As the work continues now next to get out the 53 of Isambard, when you've got this many guys connected. This is going to have to be a flatbed tow, so he's made some significant damage to that car as well. Going to drag that thing out. Crew doing the best they can to get this car cleaned up. I'll tow the 53 back in, bring him on the flatbed. Strong run for Matt Clark, as we had said in race number 1. Really has kind of had a handle on this track from the get-go. Opening test session yesterday, Alessandro DiTullio was actually the fastest driver in the opening test. Really pushed hard on that kind of, I want to say, reconnaissance kind of session, was the drivers all getting a feel for this racetrack. To be honest, and we talked about this in the opening race as well, this is not a racetrack that you could prepare as you traditionally would these days in terms of running iRacing, getting a bunch of sessions on the simulator. This track is not a simulator anywhere. It's not a place that anybody was able to run. So really, they had to go out and get on the racetrack. They walked around the track. We did kind of a track walk, track drive. Everybody was able to kind of go out in their tuggers or their rental cars and go super slow around the racetrack to get a feel for the view of the racetrack. And then, of course, a number of people took advantage of a track walk and then another track walk yesterday afternoon after testing. Yeah, they're definitely working hard to drag that 53 of Isambard up there. But again, all the drivers kind of came up to speed at different paces, right? Able to get a handle on the racetrack early. DeTulio was fastest in the opening session, but bolted on the fresh tires for session number 2 and had an issue and actually went off in the exit turn number 2 and tagged the wall. So, had some good speed in the opening stanza, but then made a bit of a mistake and lost, the second session. And that's what this is all about. And you say you don't want any wrecks. We want to see them go green to checker, but these are young drivers that are going to make mistakes. That's what this junior development program is all about. So tough to see this one because opening lap, right? This is one of the things we try to reiterate to these drivers is that, there's no need to scrap or block or dive bomb somebody on the opening circuit. Just makes no sense. Better to settle into the groove and get rolling. So again, this will be a teachable moment. I guarantee you, Gabby Chavez, who was my guest to start the day off here and gave the command to fire, our driver coach will be sitting down with all 3 of these drivers to kind of process this. Why did it happen? How can we avoid it for the next, the next event, whether it be tomorrow in round number 3 or rounds 4 and 5 at Barber Motorsports Park next week. So getting close to wrapping things up here. Again, time winding down. We're almost 15 minutes into the 45-minute time window. 1 lap in the books. When they come back around, it'll be 2 laps, I believe, when they get rolling again. So going to be tied up to try to get all 12 laps in here based on how long it's taken to get all 3 of these cars, all these guys all collected in the incident. You can see we're pretty close as a number of the workers have worked their way away. They're going to get this car bolted down. And we'll go back to racing with a single file restart. As you know, Matt Clark will be on the front row, or rather will be at the front. He'll set the pace when they work their way to 17. And actually the punch-off zone right at the apex of 17. That's Joel Miller, our race director, kind of rolled that through all the drivers during both drivers' meetings, that the punch-off is going to be the minute you come through this hairpin. It's a kind of a right-left combination, but it's a hairpin that leads back onto the curving front straightaway. He'll be able to punch off as soon as he gets to the apex. Get there, get it rotated, and get back on the throttle. So we'll see Matt Clark lead him down into turn number 1 with Nikita Johnson right behind him, Sam Corey in 3rd, Andre Castro 4th, Alessandro DeTulio in 5th spot, Ethan Ho in 6th, Titus Sherlock 7th, Earl Tucker 8th, Elliot Cox 9th, Noah Pink 10th, and Bianca Bustamante in the 11th position. 3 drivers involved in the single incident, and not quite sure yet what happened to Nicholas D'Orlando. We've got 3 different teams involved in this one, though. Crosslink Kiwi, International Motorsports, and D-Force Racing all involved. We saw, of course, that Jake Bonilla was able to pull his back. I don't know whether or not they got his refired or not yet. But there's 2 teams, International and Crosslink Kiwi, that have work to do on a race car before they get going back again tomorrow, just before the noon hour. Kudos to our crew to getting things underway one at a time, getting those cars separated. And I'm sure that our race director, Joel Miller, will be surveying the cameras up in race control to figure out when this track will be clear. Shouldn't take long for us to be able to fire these engines up and get them back at it again. And this is one of those things that I always find interesting about, the mental side of this game, right? The drivers all got themselves prepared before they, jumped into the cars back in the paddock. Get that, that mental focus. A lot of them, with some drills they do before they jump in the car. Helmet goes on, get strapped in, getting ready to go to battle, right? And they roll their cars down onto the grid, get set to go, opening lap. Anybody who's ever raced before knows what that lap is like when you leave the grid and some of the cool air kind of starts blowing through the cockpit a little bit, and you get that feel, and you're, cinch the belts down again. your mindset's there. You're prepped. You're ready to go. You go green, and all of a sudden you get that 1 lap, 2 laps in. All of a sudden you go red. Man, you come back to the pits, and they've been sitting here, as we've said, for 15 minutes. Again, going through the mindset, going through the processes again. You've got your spotter or your coach in the radio talking to you about how to reset things, refocus, be ready for this restart. Engines fired. I can hear them just outside our studio here. We are rolling once again. Drivers are pulling off the racetrack to get things going. Purpose of our larger time window to make sure we get as many laps in this race as we possibly can. Great call for Joel Miller to call the red flag, bringing him in here. Not burning up any laps whatsoever. They'll come across the line as they leave pit, so there's your second lap in the books right now. So when they come back around, 3 laps will be in. Wonder whether or not Nicholas D'Orlando just came in, maybe didn't get across the first start line. Maybe his pit is further down the pit lane. We'll see whether or not he comes back around and put a lap in here. We'll figure it out with D'Orlando. The driver's back on the racetrack, as I said, resetting the mind, to go back at this once again. And this is a track that obviously, as we've talked about, it really takes a lot of focus. And I'm talking to some of the coaches, talking to Gabby Chavez a little bit here. It's not so much about really attacking it as you would think. Back some of the corners up, a little bit. Roll on that speed. You're going to find a crew will talk to you, coach will tell you, refine speed in one corner, a couple corners per corner. The way you set up this corner, the more speed you get, you're going to carry more people than whatever corner it may be. It's about so much about rhythm, putting segments together to get an overall strong lap, as opposed to just attacking each corner as an individual complex. So the drivers are back out on the racetrack, and we are looking to go green this next time by. The red flag has been rescinded. We got the yellow flag. You can see that there. Our yellow flag, little yellows in the corner workers. Matt Clark is going to have to handle what will be his first restart. We did not get a restart in the opening race. We went 9 laps before the incident with Jacob Bull, and he kind of went off track after his teammate Bianca Bustamante had kind of shortcut and had some trouble coming through the chicane area. He had to go off track to miss her and then ended up getting into the tire barrier. We went yellow all the way to the checkered flag, so Matt Clark has not yet had to handle a restart, and he'll do that here as the pace car bringing him around. Clark, Johnson, Corey, Castro. I'm going to look at the tail of the field to see if that is indeed, I think that might be D'Orlando right there. Indeed, there's Nicholas D'Orlando there. So the number 61 is on the racetrack. I don't know whether or not he's a lap down or not. Let's see if he picks up when he comes back around here. I don't know that he is. But the drivers we've lost in this one, Jeremy Fairburn, Jake Bonilla, Alan Isambard, those are the drivers we've lost. Drivers circulating their way around here. And again, ready to go back to green flag racing. Let's do this. Let's get back at it. Second race of a triple header here at Ozarks International Raceway, kicking off the 2022 USF Junior season, the inaugural season of this program, the feeder series for the Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. I know so many of these drivers focused on graduating up into USF 2000 next year, running the Ligier chassis that has been around here for many years, and over almost 100 of these Ligier chassis in the country right now. A brand new Tatis car for next year, though. Looking forward to that in a big way. The JR23, Tatis JR23, debuting next year, as Danny Anderson had alluded to in the pre-race of race number 1. It's a very similar car, the same tub, same halo that we have, and the same aero that we have for the USF 2000 car, but just some of the components not quite as expensive, not quite as high end. The idea is to have a more affordable race car. We'll make sure to get the engines will be detuned. Still the same engine from Elite Engines, but it'll be detuned a bit. Here we go, out of turn number 17. We're going to be back out of here. The pace car is ducked on off, and we're ready to go back to racing. Matt Clark leads them down the front straightaway. It's the big sweeping front straight right as they come by our race control building there. That's the start-finish line, and we are green and back to racing. Down into turn number 1. The downhill fall, almost off camber coming through that corner. A lot of drivers have lost the rear end there. We've been into the wall a bit there. Tough corner. back up the hill to turn number 2, over to turn number 3. You see the top 3 drivers, the podium finishers from race number 1, essentially lining up 1, 2, 3. D'Orlando potentially getting the spot further back there. Coming out of turn number 4 and 5. And then they'll work their way, as we said, down that back straightaway. It's essentially, you maybe lift a little bit here coming through the bus stop, and then maybe into turn number 7. That's a big run all the way down to turn 8, turn 9, over to turn 10. It is a big run around the outside of this racetrack. And it's not just a flat run. That's the key thing. That's, any other track in the country, it might just be a big kind of, a flat with a couple of kinks along straightaway. No, this is uphill, blind corner, off camber. This is throwing everything at these young drivers. They'll work their way, of course, through that particular part of the racetrack. Coming now, I believe, through turn number 13. Pardon me, that will be through turn 10, coming through 10. Then this is turn number 11. Down here, turn number 11. There is the leader, Matt Clark, back up the hill over to just a bit of a kink, turn 12. Not much of a corner there. As you can see, they don't lose the corner coming over the hill, but another blind rise over top of there over to turn number 12. Then it's into the big sweeping turn 13. 13 back over to 14, which is another right-hander. Oh, driver dropping a wheel there, a little further back. That'll catch your attention coming out of the corner there. That might have been Andre Castro. Leader coming back down here. There you go. Let's have a look here right now. This is our leader right now. That's Matt Clark working his way down here. You can see right there that I want to say 3rd, 4th, and 5th, or 4th, 5th, and 6th right there. Here comes D'Orlando coming through there as well. Nicholas D'Orlando trying to work his way back forward, back up to the drone as they come out of turn number 17. It's a right hand and a hairpin left-hander. There's the lead for Matt Clark. He's been able to pull up a nice little advantage here early on. And I want to say that I think that one of the VRD cars has gone back to 4th. I think Andre Castro's worked that International Motorsports machine up to 3rd. Indeed, he has. Andre Castro has gone to 3rd. So Andre, who has had sporadic starts in USF 2000, got a chance to run in Jeremy Shaw's Team USA Scholarship Program at the Formula Ford Festival and the Walter Hayes Trophy last year. Getting an opportunity for a full season here in USF Juniors. Not something that he's had, I want to say this his whole open wheel career, a full season lined up. So it'll be interesting to see what Andre Castro can do. A couple starts with Legacy Autosport in the USF 2000 program. But he gets by Sam Corey on the restart to move Castro to 3rd, Corey 4th, Tullio 5th, Titus Sherlock up into the 6th spot, Ethan Ho in 7th, Earl Tucker 8th, Elliot Cox in 9th. This is the last time by. Bianca Bustamante in 10th. Noah Ping and Nicholas D'Orlando showing 2 laps down. I don't know that D'Orlando lost all that time, but I think he's slid through. They're saying 3 laps here now. There's your leader coming out of turn number 13, back down the hill. Look at that elevation change. That's absolutely amazing. That was through turn 10. This is turn 11. So that last one, I'm trying to pick up the screens that we see. I believe that was through turn 10. This is turn number 11, back up the hill. This is turn 12 at the top. The crest of the hill is turn 12. This is coming all the way back around, though. A couple different lines coming out of that corner. You see a couple drivers a little more shallow, some able to get over to the side of the track much quicker. Clark looking pretty good on the lead there. I want to say that's coming down through 15 and 16. They'll work their way back out of 17 and 18. It said 17 corners. The map I'm looking at actually has 19. Adding a couple extras in, I believe. Here's Clark's lead. There it is right there. Matt Clark with the lead. Nicely down into turn 1. You see he's got a good arc coming through turn number 1. There's 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Top 9 drivers, not that far apart. That's a pretty solid group there for the top 9. What's the gap between 1st and 9th position right now? Not bad back to Elliot Cox, just 7 or 8 seconds separating the front all the way back to Cox, and Cox trying to close her up now on Earl Tucker, the DC Autosport driver. Matt Clark, fast lap of the race right now. That last time by at 2:22.170. Already talked about the fact that he's got a lot of experience at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in Les Arcueils, Mont-Tremblant in Canada. Very similar circuits to this one here with the elevation changes, some of the blind corners and the off-camber corners. Obviously, if you've ever been to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, turn one, an off-camber right-hander as you slide kind of through there. You got to trust the car and get the car to slide. Then you're a short shoot over turn 2, which is one of the most famous corners there. Kind of falls off right-hander down the hill. Huge fall off on turn number 2. So Matt Clark with the track record at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in the F1600 series. If all goes well on his side, he's going to end up leaving Ozarks here with the USF Juniors track record as well. He's been very, very strong. 122.170 last time by for Clark. Nikita Johnson not giving up, though. Long way to the end of this championship and the $200,000 plus scholarship to move to USF 2000. Little drop of the wheel further back there for Sam Corey. He's got Alessandro DiTullio closing. DiTullio's been able to get by Castro. Castro's up to third, so both Sam Corey and Alessandro DiTullio have been able to get back around again. Here they come through. There's Johnson will be the first one through. And then there's Corey, DiTullio, and Castro. So I got to think Castro might have made a little mistake. There's a good fight there as well. That's going to be, I believe, Earl Tucker and Elliot Cox. That was the fight we saw there. There's D'Orlando. Again, back into turn number 1 for Matt Clark. About 15 minutes left in this session here. We're at the 29-minute mark, 45-minute window for the drivers here today. 6 laps 12, halfway through this one, and Matt Clark looking to go back-to-back. 2.7 seconds to lead, but look at that fight a little further back there. You got a bunch of drivers lining them up. That is that run up out of turn number 1. You go down into the gully, back up the hill for turn number 2, crest the hill to a little bit of a kink to the left for turn 3. Then turn 4 comes right around to the right, another kink back, turn 5, then down into the gully that leads you to that long kind of snaking back straightaway we talked about, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Through the bus stop first, then you do the big run over the hump in the back part of the racetrack. This is turn number 10, I believe. I think we figured that out. This is turn 10. They don't have the corner marking on the side of this one. This is turn 10 coming through. Drivers getting settled in nicely here. Not sure how many battles we're going to have to the end of this one. We'll see what Clark's lead looks like next time by. We'll find out which battles we potentially have. Here comes Matt Clark once again. There's D'Orlando coming through shortly. I think D'Orlando more using this potentially as a setup run for him. We'll look at lap times. He, again, like I said, wasn't able to run race number 1 with the issues that he did have. D'Orlando's fast time so far, a 25.921. Back down through 1 for Clark. This is the gap. Just wait here and we'll see how much gap he has over that fight. There is 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Nikita Johnson, Sam Corey, and Alessandro DiTullio, I believe. 2.7 seconds. Pardon me, let's reset it. Because, whoa, hold on. What happened to Nikita Johnson? Nikita's fallen back a little bit. He's down now to, now he's fallen down the order. Did we lose Nikita Johnson out of this? Potential drop for Nikita. We'll have a look here. I believe that's Bianca Bustamante working her way through turn number 1, getting chased So it's back to run back up to turn number 2 again. Yeah, Nikita Johnson fell back to 7th. Not sure what happened to Nikita there. He's almost 3 seconds behind Ethan Ho, so I wonder if it was an off potentially for Nikita Johnson. Drivers hustling it again. That corner, I think I was calling 10. I think that calling 10. I think that's actually 9. This is 10 here. Yeah, then coming back through, but this would be turn number 11 here, back up to 12. So turn 9 is that one shot that we have of the Marshall station with the drivers hustling around the corner. You can see some of the outbuildings, the registration buildings on the outside of the racetrack. There's a good scrap right there too. That's one of the DC Autosports cars getting absolutely hounded. That is Earl Tucker and Elliot Cox. Cox putting a ton of pressure on Earl Tucker here right now for 3rd. Cox for Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing Development. Tucker for DC Autosport with Cape Motorsports. I'm not sure what happened yet with Nikita Johnson, but falling down the order to 7th, as we said, that moves Sam Corey up into 2nd, Alessandro DiTullio up to 3rd, Andre Castro to 4th. There's Earl Tucker there coming through the screen. Watch through turn number 1 once again. You'll see the leader come up for 2 momentarily. There he is. That's Matt Clark up through 2, up to turn number 3, that 3-4-5 combination. Look at the gap, literally nobody. And then we've got 2nd and 3rd, Sam Corey and Alessandro DiTullio, the 2 Velocity Racing Development drivers. Corey already with a podium. You wonder whether DiTullio will take that spot and say, you know what, I'm not bad. I took that, I'll take it. You know what I mean? Like, he finished 6th in the first one, 3rd in the second race would be solid, or do you race hard and try to get by your teammate to go to P2, knowing that the leader is going to get a couple of wins here. Talked to a number of the veteran motorsports drivers, industry members, coaches, during the test day, saying this is a challenging racetrack, but the drivers who are going to contend for the championship are likely those that are going to be able to get out of here cleanly, and that's definitely the case for Matt Clark, as he's looking very good up front. Same goes for Sam Corey. A driver like Nicholas D'Orlando, rather, going to have to dig in. He's going to have a really strong Barber Motorsports park to battle his way back. It'll be a claw back up through the order for Nicholas D'Orlando, but DC Autosport with Cape Motorsports, definitely a talented crew of respected engineers who know what to do, and you know that they'll be able to fight their way back. All it takes is to get hot at one of the tracks and sweep it. 4 laps to go. 10 minutes remaining in the session. It's going to time out nicely. Clark, Corey, DiTullio, Castro, and Sherlock top 5. Ethan Ho 6th. Nikita Johnson 7th. Earl Tucker 8th. Elliot Cox 9th. And Bianca Bustamante 10th. Opening lap, red flag for an incident that involved a number of drivers. Jeremy Fairburn, Jake Bonilla, and Alan Isambard. Those 3 drivers all involved in it. Took a little while to get it cleaned up. We went red to make sure we were able to get the green flag laps in. Back up through turn 2. That's that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place run. We saw Andre Castro up into 3rd at one point. He made a little error, and that allowed Nikita Johnson and Sam Corey to get back through. Then Johnson repays the favor. He falls down into the 7th spot. He is closed right back up on Ethan Ho, though, so there's a good little scrap there. That's the one that just went to the top of the hill there. That is Nikita Johnson closing up on Ethan Ho to potentially get himself back up to 6th. Bustamante on the racetrack by herself. We kind of illustrated the struggles that she's had throughout the early part of the weekend, not getting on the racetrack in the opening session of the test. had some issues, some car issues to get them dialed in the second test session. Then actually got a couple of good laps turned in early in the third session, but then spun and flat spotted her tires, her Cooper tires, and that was it for that session. And then with the flat spotted tires, the way the tire rules work here with USF Juniors, really didn't have a set of tires. The carryovers that she would have used in morning practice day, the official practice session, would have been those flat spotted tires from session number 3. Elected not to go out, of course, with those tires, and of course that kind of changes things for her. So her first race number 1 for Bianca, was really her first full distance run. So she's really using this entire weekend to dial things in. Now she's not in championship; she won't be in the championship contention. She's not running in the championship. She will miss 2 races, both Road America and the challenge of the Circuit of the Americas for the W Series, which will be running in this year as well. Watching that scrap there, I think Elliot Cox may have got by. Yeah, Cox has been able to get by, I think, Earl Tucker. Those were the second, third, and fourth place drivers rolling by as the laps are winding down. Leader up and over top of that crest at a turn 17, I'll call it 18, I guess, back down the hill. Sweeping downhill off camber, turn number 1 / front straightaway. Man, what a challenging racetrack. And kudos to our USF Juniors drivers for handling it. Little issue on the opening lap. Drivers getting a little too over anxious, trying to grab a spot on the opening lap. We know, right? We've all heard the old adage that you can't win on the opening lap, but you sure can lose it. And that's what we saw for those 3 drivers. They were all, you said 6th, 7th, and 8th on the grid. They make mistakes. Whoever did that, somebody tried to, obviously, I'm thinking, I'll throw it out, somebody probably tried to make a move. Somebody defended. Somebody got caught up in it. That's not a surprise there. All 3 of them going off the racetrack. Tough to see that Jake Bonilla was not able to get that car refired because they pulled him back like he may have been able to refire something, but you got to believe something was broken terminally that pulled him from the race. So he'll be back at it for race number 3 tomorrow. Clark's leads 7.6 seconds as he's hustling that D-Force machine around. Sam Corey's got Alessandro DiTullio. That's them right there. That is second and third. Corey and to DiTullio. Castro trying to chase him down and has for the race since losing that 3rd spot. But he's almost a second and a half back now. We've got ourselves essentially a 2-driver battle for second for VRD, and it feels like we're just doing it all over again, right? We saw a kind of a carbon copy in round number 1 when Nikita Johnson was able to slip by. There's a couple of the DC Autosport drivers. That is Earl Tucker getting chased down here, down by Nicholas D. Orlando, who I believe is a couple laps back, at least 1 lap back. And again, this is that scrap right there at second and third. And you can be sure that Andre Castro is just urging them to go at it. Start going wheel to wheel. If they go side by side, Castro's going to be back in the fight for sure. Here comes your leader out of turn number 18 back down the hill. I believe, there it is. They're side by side essentially. Look at this scrap. Is that DiTullio through? White flag flying this time by. Final lap for Matt Clark, and the battle continues between the 2 VRD drivers, Sam Corey and Alessandro DiTullio. DiTullio not quite able to get by. Up through turn number 2, and here comes Castro. Like I said, Andre Castro on the scene. So we're not done yet with second and third on the podium. Clark well up the road by over 8.5 seconds. But we got ourselves a fight coming out of turn number 5 and all the way down the long back straightaway here. And through the bus stop, can Andre Castro somehow inject himself into this fight between the 2 VRD drivers, Corey and DiTullio? Down the back straightaway, I believe they're coming right now. We're still keying here on turn number 2. Let's move our way over now. I believe that's turn number 9. I think we figured out this was turn number 9. Yeah, through turn number 9 over to 10. Let's see what happens when they come back around. Of course, we'll see Clark first. This is the end of that, essentially the end of the long back straightaway. There's Matt Clark. your leader in the Valkyrie AI machine for D-Force Racing. Look at the gap he has built up over to turn number 10. But let's keep it here to see what happens with the next battle, because we know we got to fight 3 drivers going for the final podium positions. Look how much of a gap. And what has happened? They've separated a little bit. Someone made a move. There's no doubt about that, because the 2 VRD drivers have separated. Andre Castro, I think, not done yet, potentially trying to work his way to 3rd, but one of the VRD drivers had a significant gap coming out of 9 over to turn number 10. They were nose to tail coming up through turn 2, 3, and 4. So something happened a bit to separate those drivers. Again, there's the fight further back between, I believe, Earl Tucker and Elliot Cox. No, that's Ethan Ho and Elliot Cox, another one of the DC Autosport cars. So Ethan Ho runs 7th, Elliot Cox in 8th. This is that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th battle. Hard to pick up a number there. I think that might have been Sam. I don't know. That was tough to pick it up, whether that was DeTulio or Corey. But final circuit, checker flag's going to fly. Coming out of turn number 18, the Canadian gets it done again. Back-to-back jacks for Mac Clark, the DE Force driver, winning again here at Ozarks. What a strong day. The driver from Campbellville, Ontario, Canada, he will take the win. Coming home in the 2nd spot, waiting for live timing, and indeed it was Alessandro DeTulio, the young Floridian, able to slip by Sam Corey. So move DeTulio up into 2nd spot with a last lap pass. Sam Corey ends up in 3rd. Andre Castro in the 4th position. 5th with Titus Sherlock. 6th, Nikita Johnson. 7th, Ethan Ho. 8th, Elliot Cox. 9th, Earl Tucker. And I believe Bianca Bustamante is going to round out the top 10. Strong run there for Matt Clark. Again, gets out, gets the lead. Of course, we had the red flag early with 3 drivers off the racetrack. Jeremy Fairburn, Jake Bonilla, and Alan Isambard all making their way into the tire barriers there. Back to green flag racing, and Matt Clark was able to pull away again, really leaving the fight behind him. Once he got going, that put, we talked about Nikita Johnson being in there. Sam Corey was in the fight there as well. Alessandro DeTulio got himself back up into the scrap. And then Andre Castro, we know, was in the fight there as well. As it ends up, we'll go to the podium here momentarily, folks, but we'll give you a top 10 rundown before we do that. Matt Clark with the win, 8.599 seconds, the gap between 1st and 2nd. Alessandro DeTulio, his first podium, the driver who won the TireRack.com Road to Indy E-Series this year on iRacing. He ends up in 2nd. Sam Corey in 3rd, another podium for Sam Corey. Andre Castro 4th, Titus Sherlock in 5th. Nikita Johnson, some kind of an issue mid-race. He ends up slotting into 6th. Ethan Ho in 7th. Elliot Cox 8th. Earl Tucker 9th. And Bianca Bustamante rounding out the top 10. Nicholas D'Orlando and Noah Ping, the other drivers that were able to turn laps in race number 2. So drivers will circulate their way around this, again, 3.97-mile racetrack. 3 drivers, however, when they head to pit lane, will not make the about right back up into the paddock. They'll head to victory lane, and we'll see them here momentarily. Folks, don't go anywhere. More to come as we have podium presentations for round number 2 of the USF Juniors program here on Road to Indy TV.
Your Uncle Cooper. Your SUV is a multi-purpose tool, like a corkscrew fish scaler. And that means your tires should be multi-purpose too. Like these Cooper rugged Treks. They're tough, but also run smooth as butter. And with dual sidewalls, it's like having a multi-tool that can look like a completely different multi-tool. Don't take that idea, by the way. I'm gonna patent it. Go with the Coopers. Cooper. Your Uncle Cooper. Sure, once in a blue moon, you might need your tires for hauling a horse in a hailstorm. But most days, you're gonna need your tires for tougher things, like teaching your sister's kid how to parallel park. Thankfully, these Cooper Enduramaxes aren't just tough, they're everyday tough. Okay, there's a lot of improvement. Go with the Coopers. Cooper.
And we're get set to go down here in USF Juniors victory lanes. We have the three drivers who were able to get the job done today here. As I had said earlier, a wreck on the opening circuit. Otherwise, drivers going clean and green from the restart through to the very end of that one. And two of the drivers we saw in race one on the podium back once again. Another driver making their USF Juniors podium debut with a strong drive. Get these drivers dialed in and over here to the podium so we can get things underway. One more race still to come tomorrow. We'll see what kind of weather we end up tomorrow with. It's going to be very interesting. We've made some changes to the schedule to potentially get another dry race. We'll see how it all plays out. So let's get our drivers over here, if we can, please, to the podium to get things underway. Another podium, back-to-back podiums for this young driver. Ladies and gentlemen, coming home in third today, Sam Corey. Sam, we'll have a quick chat before we bring the trophy in. Back-to-back podiums, you know, that's really all you can ask for. You can get wins, but you know podiums is what wins championships.
Yeah, for sure. We were just really trying to be consistent there and nothing bad at the end, which Alessandro raced me really clean, so thank you to that. It was a really good race. So he sat in my mirrors the whole time, did what he was supposed to do, and got around me at the end. But, yeah, points racing for sure. So, no, car was really good. Very fun track, great event. So thank you to all of the VRD boys for putting this piece together. And
nicely done. Let's bring a trophy in for you. Michelle Kish, the COO for Anderson Promotions, will bring a trophy in here for Sam Corey, back-to-back podiums. Nicely done. Michelle does not like to be in pictures, but we're going to force her into it. So Michelle Kish, of course, one of the unseen heroes you never see here, but she gets all the work done. Nicely done. Sam, well done. Stand there for third. Coming home second, his first time on the podium here, folks. Put your hands together for Alessandro DiTullio. Alessandro, sixth in the opening race. You end up battling with your teammate, a last lap pass. We didn't see it on the video. Can you tell us how it happened?
Yeah, it was a really exciting race. I got a run out of the last turn. He went down to the inside early. I took the outside line, and then coming into turn one, there was a little gap, and I went for it. But yeah, he raced me super clean. He also did a great job with me behind him the whole race, so good job to Sam, and good job to Matt Clark, too, for the great win.
Overall, are you happy with the way the weekend's gone so far? A very tough track, right? You all get here, your first time on the racetrack, and the test was tough. Are you happy with the way things have gone so far?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had much testing before this race, only like 4 or 5 days of testing in this car, so the track is really tough. It's a tough track to learn. I had an incident in free practice too, so that set me back a bit, so I had to just gain that momentum back, and the team and all the coaches and the team have done a great job to get me here.
A sixth in race one, second in race two, P1 in race three?
Yeah, we got to get Mac. He's really fast, so I think we're working hard to get him. So
congratulations. Let's bring that trophy in. Gustavo Jacobin, our series manager, will bring the second place trophy into Alessandro DiTullio, a very talented driver again. Great to see him here. We brought him into the TireRack.com Road to Indy E-Series, and he was able to really perform there. And awesome to see him here on the podium. But the driver who comes back with another win here, a really dominant day, folks. Scoring the win today for D-Force Racing, Matt Clark. We can just press the reset button on that first one probably. Obviously, you learn a lot from the first win. You get the momentum. Did you feel that coming to the green, that there was, you kind of had the car and the track handled?
Yeah, for sure. Big thank you to the D-Force Racing guys. I mean, I knew I had the car underneath me from the very start, so, just making sure I got clean off the green flag and, got into a rhythm, and tire saving was the name of the game.
What about tomorrow? What are you thinking going into Sunday?
Well, I'll look at the weather forecast a few times tonight, but other than that, put my head down and really just try to improve myself, work with the team closely. But big thank you to D-Force Racing, like I said, Valkyrie AI, MIR Raceline USA, Bell Helmets, all my friends and family back home.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Matt Clark, folks, back-to-back wins. Let's bring Dan Anderson in here with that first-place trophy. He's bringing some big hardware back to D-Force Racing for Saturday. And again, all the drivers thinking about what it's going to be like tomorrow when we do get a potential weather. We'll see how it plays out. We've made a schedule change to hopefully not have that, but we'll bring these drivers together. This is talented field here, folks, in USF Juniors here this year, the future stars of the Road to Indy and the NTT IndyCar Series. And again, 3 very talented young drivers, a couple of Americans and a Canadian. And once again, all these drivers working their way here onto the podium in what was a strong race, just that opening issue in lap number 1. Otherwise, clean and green through, showing the talent that we have in USF Juniors this year. Tomorrow they could be tested if we do get some weather. But I believe that we have such a high level of talent this year that they will put that on display once again tomorrow. So trophies are done. We'll bring that champagne around here if we'll give them a chance to spray it out. They've got to wear these suits again tomorrow. So if they're back on the podium for Sunday, maybe we'll get some more spray, although they are back on track again Thursday and Friday of next week at Barber Motorsports Park. These guys will go right back at it. So, folks, drivers, celebrate here, guys. You just got yourself on the podium in USF Juniors. Matt Clark with the win. Alessandro DiTullio in second. And Sam Corey back on the podium once again in third. What a great day of racing here from Ozarks International Raceway. We do want to thank all of you who tuned into the USF Juniors app or one of the platforms to stream coverage throughout the day. We hope you enjoyed it. This has been a great start to this USF Juniors program. We look forward to continuing to develop great drivers for the Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. Back again tomorrow, I believe, in an 11:50 start time for race number 3. Keep an eye on the weather. We will be doing the same thing. Follow, of course, along with all our social media to see if there's any updates in terms of when we're going green flag racing. Otherwise, thank you so much for being with us here on behalf of everyone from Anderson Promotions and USF Juniors. My name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.